want to welcome you to Entrepreneurial Mondays, presented by National Black MBA Metro New York Chapter and bccelerator, Advancing Black Entrepreneurship. We have a wonderful conversation for you today as we explore opportunities to start and develop your businesses in the state of New Jersey and the metro area. So we want to welcome you on this live broadcast. For those of you who are using Facebook, we ask you to use the chat feature for any questions you may have. Share this live broadcast to your colleagues and friends who are looking to explore what this means for them for economic gain in the state of New Jersey. So thank you very much for joining in. At this time, I want to welcome our president of the Metro New York chapter of the National Black MBA, Andrew Hamilton. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. First day of June. So welcome everyone. So go ahead. Welcome everyone. Good evening. Another exciting month for us for the New York chapter. Another exciting month for all of us here, Metro New York team, to really motivate and develop new ideas in business, economics, and take a time out to really motivate us and move ahead. Our events are for you. We appreciate the feedback, appreciate the sharing of the knowledge to your different colleagues, friends, and family. But more or less is for you and for you to grow and develop as you move forward. I can't miss the opportunity to talk about what happened over the weekend. Definitely sitting under a tent of anxiety and stress in the community at large, especially a person of people of color. But I want you to know that we here, you and I, are dedicated to success, dedicated to excellence, dedicated to growth. And I hope that our efforts will inspire you, to inform you, to invest in yourself, to move ahead. And with that being said, let's start the program, Norville. And I wish you guys a happy evening, and I'll talk to you at the end of the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for those kind remarks. And echo those remarks. And we're here to support as a chapter. And we thank you so much for tuning in today. Our guest today is someone that I know very well. He has been a professor of mine at Rutgers Business School. And Leon Fraser is right now the interim chief executive officer and the state director of the New Jersey Small Business Development Centers. He provides leadership over this nationwide network of professionals that provides expert counseling to small businesses on growth strategies, business continuing, and financial assistance. He was appointed by New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy to serve on the Main Street Committee to his Restart and Recover Advisory Council to advise state leaders on economic matters impacting COVID-19. In addition to leading New Jersey State Small Business Development Centers, he's assistant professor of professional practice at the Rutgers Business School, my alma mater, where he teaches MBA level courses in corporate strategy, executive leadership, and one of the best courses I've ever taken is management consulting. Previously, he was a strategy executive at Verizon, was a vice president of marketing of a startup software company, and a management consultant. He is a certified executive coach by the International Coach Federation. He has received the Mentor of the Year by the National Black MBA New Jersey chapter in 2017. He has earned his BA cum laude from Harvard University and an MBA from the Wharton Business School of University of Pennsylvania. Without further ado, I want to welcome Fraser to the telecast. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you very much.
Well, we're going to get right into it, and we're excited for this time. And when I say excited, we know that COVID-19 has impacted the way we look at business going forward. But let's just take a step back. Let's learn more about you in terms of some of your career highlights and what kind of brought you to this opportunity.
Sure. Well, there's not much more to say because you gave me such a wonderful introduction. Thank you very much. But it seems like they're different things, but the theme is that I'm interested in services. So Norville, you were at a manufacturing or CPG company once. I'm not into that at all. I'm into services. And the services that I'm interested in are to help people make more informed decisions. So at Verizon, internet delivery of information, at Newsday, newspaper information, and here at Rutgers Business School, teaching wonderful students like yourself. So I'm now, again, CEO of the New Jersey Small Business Development Centers, which is hosted by Rutgers University. And I was appointed by the dean on April 1st. So I've been on the job for 2 months, and I'm trying to move things forward.
Now, what are some things that you have been appointed to that, you know, getting this opportunity, some things that you were thinking about that said, you know, I need to probably jump the gun and say, hey, I'm thinking about this or that area. What were some of your initial thoughts before taking the role?
Yeah, I was essentially drafted for the role. The prior incumbent was in the role for 29 years, and she decided it was time to retire. And rather than give 2 months notice, rather than 2 weeks notice, she gave a month's notice. But because we received money from the Small Business Administration, the federal government required it to have a nationwide search in order to get the next person in. So again, I was appointed by the dean. I was right there. They liked what I do, and they said that I could step in right away as CEO. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity. So in answer to your question, I didn't come to the opportunity. The opportunity came to me. But that's a great question in terms of being ready and for whatever comes your way and be able to take advantage of it.
And I could definitely attest to that. Opportunities have come my way because I was prepared, and you know, thanks to your teaching and many countless others, you know, we see the fruits of that. So let's take a step back. What is the New Jersey State Development Business Development Corporation, and what does the actual organization do?
Yeah, so we're often confused by the Small Business Administration. We're a state organization. SBA is obviously federal. And when you think about the federal government, they can't be everywhere and do everything. So they give out grants to partners to assist in delivery of services. So what we do is we have seminars and webinars on different subjects like branding, financial literacy, those kinds of things to help small businesses succeed. We also have individual counseling. If you need a loan or if you need a business plan fixed up, that's what we do, one-on-one. And we also provide information, help people get financing, whether it's disaster loans or whether it's regular loans for growth loans. So all in all, we have about 3,500 clients that we serve.
Now, in terms of the clients that you serve now, are the services different between locations? Say I live in Essex County. Can I go to Essex County and then go to maybe another county in the state of New Jersey and receive the same type of services?
You'll receive the same menu of services, but what we offer you may be a little different. The way we're structured is we have 12 regions. Some regions, and they cover all the counties of New Jersey. Some regions are multi-county, some are individual counties. So if we look at Metro New York, Bergen, Hudson, Essex counties, they're all staffed by people just for those counties. And just like headquarters for NJSBDC is at Rutgers University, we're hosted in the regions by universities as well. For Bergen, we're physically located at Ramapo College. For Hudson, we're at Jersey City University. And for Essex County, we're at Rutgers Newark. So when the lockdown is over, there'll be people there. But in the meantime, we're delivering services remotely and it's working out very well.
Good. Now, and that leads me to where I was going to ask you now in terms of COVID. So it looks like your services are really now virtual. So you're still able to meet the same amount of services. Has that changed the demand in this time frame?
It's changed the demand because if you listen to the national news or if you've been affected by this, you've heard of loans like EIDL or PPP. In fact, as you know, there's a big brouhaha about big businesses being first in line to get the PPP loans. But the way it works is, the way that the legislation was crafted was that the Small Business Administration does not provide loans directly to folks. You have to go through a bank. So we would help prepare the application for folks who would then deliver that application to a bank. And you would hear directly from the bank about whether you were processed or not. So while we do a lot of webinars and one-on-one counseling, in the past 2 months, that loan assistance has really been our bread and butter.
Now, now speaking of that, and we know that everyone is going through many different types of challenges from a economic business standpoint. What is really the state of entrepreneurship in the state of New Jersey? What were your thoughts coming in, as you're in your professional roles and now into this role? Has that changed? And what is that state of state of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, I had my own points of view coming into the job, again, being at a startup myself, but everything changed right away. And as you can recall, it changed pretty quickly with the onset of COVID. In fact, I remember teaching at Rutgers that our spring break was supposed to start the next week, and the president cut off the semester like midweek. So folks had to scramble and so forth. So it caught us really right away. So we had to transition or return to these remote services as opposed to one-on-one services, and quite frankly, become experts in advance. But I did want to share with you, in fact, it's too soon to have statistics for New Jersey, but I did want to share with you two studies that were done nationwide, which are relevant. And if you don't mind, for the sake of accuracy, I'm going to look at the information here. So there was a McKinsey study, and the McKinsey study was reported in different journals. And what they said is that businesses are really hurt by the COVID-19 because there was structural problems to begin with. I'm sorry, this one McKinsey study said that African-American businesses were susceptible to disruption by major events like COVID-19. So when we look at the proportion of Black businesses and what industries are in nationwide, they are disproportionately in restaurants and retail. And they're in locations which require a lot of foot traffic because they're situated in dense areas. So it makes sense that if there's a lockdown, no one can walk to the services. And two, even when you get to the services, the building is shuttered. So that was a tremendous impact, which negatively affected us. What are your thoughts about that, Norville?
Well, especially, now in Newark, we, working in Newark, and as you go to school in Newark, foot traffic is so important. It's like location, location, location. When I look at it from that standpoint, it makes sense because of the type of businesses that are, and unfortunately, stereotypical affect African Americans. We're service-based. We mostly serve our community. Most of the businesses that we do start off with are things like grocery stores and cleaners and services, things of that nature. So if there's no foot traffic, there's going to definitely be a correlation between, the impact to a specific issue and our business. So I definitely understand. And as a person that's, of course, looking to start many types of businesses, foot traffic and location is crucial to that.
Absolutely. There's another study, if I may, that was quoted in
Sure.
the Washington Post. This was a study done by a professor at the University of California, Santa Cruz. And in this study, it showed that due to the coronavirus lockdown, the number of active business owners dropped 22% overall compared to 40% of active African-American businesses in the period of the past 3 months. So we were hit twice as hard. And I guess those numbers aren't too surprising when you figure, as the national news reports, that the coronavirus has hit African-Americans pretty hard. So a lot of those folks were serving in industries or they were owners themselves, and there they went. On top of that, if you figure that a business is hit hard and that business owner may be running a family business or be the head of household supporting folks, the study showed that 56% of Black and Latin households do not have enough savings to cover 3 months of expenses without additional income. So we're really, right now, we're at the 3-month level here at NJSBDC. We're starting to see the level of anxiety to increase, the level of desperation, and it's rough when you've built your spent your life building up a business. You may or may not have retirement savings. You have to dip into it. There's not much left to do but to join others who are laid off or unemployed, and to go to food banks and so forth. So your original question was, what's the state of entrepreneurship? And I said it's challenging. And I hope I've demonstrated that the nature of the challenges and the root causes.
Absolutely. There's one aspect that I do want to touch on, and it has to do with, is actually a two-part question. So one of them is the industries that we go in. Now, for your center, for this agency, as you counsel people in terms of the opportunities for starting a business, can you touch on the counseling that goes into helping them expand their business in terms of what they initially maybe came up with in terms of their initial concept, what it might take to start the business, but how do you expand on top of that to get into more opportunities, so this way you're not necessarily stuck in a one revenue stream type business?
Yeah. Well, Norville, there are probably three types of ways to look at it. If we divide businesses into startups, small businesses, and entrepreneurs, there are different needs for each. So for startups, you may not have a lot of money, and you need to start with a business plan and go from there. If you're a small business, the notion of a small business is that person is earning enough money to have a comfortable lifestyle, but they're not really trying to become the next Microsoft or the next Apple. Then there are entrepreneurs who are indeed growth oriented. They may be somewhat agnostic as to the type of business, as long as it produces income, it generates revenue to hire people, and they can get bigger and bigger and enjoy that lifestyle. So in answer to your question, our counseling would differ based on the type of situation you're in and the type of aspiration that you have.
And that leads me to the areas. So, New Jersey is a big state. As a person from Brooklyn, now moving, well, I'm in New Jersey now. I'm learning that it's different than New York City for many different reasons. But when we look at it from a regional perspective, can you just touch on the different regions within the state and how businesses may be different in terms of maybe their focus or the industries that they may be in?
Sure. Well, when you think of New Jersey, typically we think about four areas. The northwest area of New Jersey is very rural, so to speak. In the northeast, it's very densely populated, as Metro New York City would infer. In the southeast, we're the Garden State, and that's where the agriculture is. And then southwest is the shore industry or hospitality. So if you're in one of those areas, you're likely influenced by the environment that you're in. So for your viewers who are in Metro New York City, there are probably a lot more procurement opportunities to feed off of the big businesses in New York City, or even from Newark Airport, as opposed to the other areas that don't have that same type of opportunity.
Now, a number of people, and before I actually moved here, and of course, I went to Berkeley Business School. I was there in 2011. I have seen Newark transform, and even their transformation was happening before that. I had professors such as Professor Jeffrey Robinson, Professor Jerome Williams, including yourself, who educated students and the public at large of emerging trends, and Newark was one of them. So when you look at it from Newark being the biggest city in New Jersey, what are some of your thoughts in regards to the boom that's happening in Newark and opportunities for people to actually start businesses in Newark?
Sure. Well, we really have to rethink what we knew to be true 2 months ago. So Newark is downtown area. Years and years of development at the Prudential Center, Prudential building a second building, the Starbucks and Whole Foods downtown to attract folks that will bring tax dollars in, right? But now with COVID, we know that COVID hits highly dense areas. Are folks going to want to move downtown? Or is there going to be a different trend? So it's really too hard to tell. Does it put the move in the convenience downtown on hold, or is that something that's going to prevail past COVID-19?
And I know that from a real estate aspect, we have a real estate series with the National Black MBA Metro New York chapter. We talk about opportunities for people to move from one area to another. And one thing that did come up was, well, do people want to live in metropolitan cities? Do people want to go into more rural areas for more space, more air? And we realized that it is too soon. However, it is something that's coming up more and more, and that gets me back to the barriers. There's a lot of barriers for minority-owned businesses, just in general, and statistics will show you, the impact that COVID-19 has had on African Americans and many other groups. Will also show the differences between businesses that have been impacted, like you mentioned. But in general, what are some of the key aspects of why entrepreneurs, especially African Americans, maybe have some barriers to starting businesses, and what are some of the things that your agency is helping to quell?
Sure. Well, if I can go back to the McKinsey study, if you don't mind me,
Sure.
for accuracy. So the McKinsey study that I referred to earlier, and by the way, if you want to Google McKinsey Quarterly, COVID-19 impact on Black businesses, folks can read the same study, which just came out recently, which is awesome. But the McKinsey study said that big banks approve around 60% of loans sought by white business owners, but 29% of loans sought by Black business owners. So again, we're only half as successful as white. So why would that be the case? I mean, if you come in, you have your money, you have your act together, what's the problem? Well, the study showed that poor credit history is the reason why they're turned down the most. And in fact, it showed that the banks tend to require more documentation of Black business applicants because they're considered a higher risk. So if you're trying to get money to grow and the bank doesn't have it, well, where do you go? And Norville, you may have heard of this term before, the 3 F's, friends, family, and fools.
Yeah.
So if you have this idea and you go to your family and say, we're not really sure that's a good idea, but okay, we'll give you some money. You go to your friends, well, hey, I'm kind of tight myself, but I'll give you some money. And then there are folks, who are fools that, well, you're a nice guy, I'll give them money. So when you go to banks or even for angels or venture capital, and you can convince folks that your idea is good enough for folks to put the trust in you, that's the start. In fact, if you watch Shark Tank, one of the questions they ask is, well, how much of your money is in the skin of the game? Because if you have money that's in the skin of the game, well, then it lowers my risk. But since the big banks, and I hope that the Chase and Citicorp aren't your sponsors, but in fact, I believe Chase, in fact, has a big initiative to change this. But the alternatives are CDFIs, if you've heard the term before.
Mm-hmm.
The full name is Community Development Financial Institutions. We have one in Newark called GNEC, Greater Newark Enterprises Corporation. And with their financing, they're able to help give loans to Black businesses which are considered too big of a risk for the big banks. So in answer to your original question, what's the biggest barrier? The biggest barrier is lack of capital. There's a problem, and the answer is to go to CFIs and to go to angel investors and to go to friends, family, and fools.
Now, there's one piece of your programming services that you offer, and that's really the BGAP, and that's really the consultative services and the training things. And can you just touch on that? I think that's important to me and important to others, because we try to jump into a business and maybe not have all the resources or understand the things that need to go into preparing yourself for success. Can you just touch on that?
Sure. Well, regardless of whether that's that particular program or any other counseling program, it is absolutely essential to have a written business plan. If your business plan is in your head, it's a thought and not a plan. So when it's written, we can show that you're serious about it. And from being in a startup myself, and I've taught courses in entrepreneurship, the business plan is probably one of the most overlooked areas to help you help yourself. And what the business plans that I've seen, there are probably one or two areas that are really missing. One is, what's the nature of the competition? You say, well, I want to create a Caribbean restaurant. Well, how does your restaurant differentiate itself from others? Well, we've got the best. We've got the best. We've got the best spices. Well, it's got to be more than that. You got to think about what kind of market share do you want from that. And secondly, your finances have to be in order. You really have to put pencil to paper or Excel sheet or whatever the case is to really be able to defend it. Now, when I was at a startup and we wanted to get investments from VCs, they literally challenged each and every cell in our Excel spreadsheet. Where'd you get that number? Where did it come from? How do we know it's true? What are your assumptions? So when you go through that kind of rigorous process, you're able to defend it. The investors have confidence in you. So in answer to your original question, all of our counseling helps folks that way, but let's be prepared and be prepared to help us help you.
And and I know that we talked about the counseling, but is your program, is it programmatic? So let's say I don't have an idea, or at least have an idea. Can a individual start from one part of the, I say, innovation funnel all the way to now I'm ready to go ahead and start my business and continue on with this organization going forward for all the
Sure.
needs that they may have throughout the, go ahead.
Right. So as I mentioned before, our mantra is where we help businesses grow, or where businesses come to grow. So regardless of what phase you're in, whether in the startup phase, the small business phase, or the growth phase of the entrepreneur, we can target our service to you. In fact, we can probably even introduce you to other clients for partnerships and do things that way, or come up with alternative sources like private corporation grants and so forth. So whatever your requirement is, we're able to assist.
Now, I know from a MW perspective, a lot of focus has gone into if you want to bring contracts, you need to look at construction, you need to go into engineering. And historically, these are not areas where um, awards have been given to African Americans, although, of course, there are many engineers and people in construction across different nations, different nationalities. What are some of the key opportunities and untapped markets for African Americans in the state of New Jersey that we're missing?
Sure. Well, when you think about the whole lockdown episode, it's that the bricks and mortar really were at risk. So if we're to move into the digital era, the digital space cuts across all of that. I mean, why is Amazon so big? Because you can get on the computer and order whatever you want, and it doesn't matter whether you pick it up at Whole Foods or whether it's delivered to your door. So in terms of being in the digital space, startups in the digital space, I really think are the way to go. And that's a tough space to crack. So you probably can't do it yourself. And that's why different groups form, or syndicates, or whatever the case may be, to get together and help to aggregate your resources and aggregate your brain power to go there. If I should also mention, in Newark, there's a program called Hire by Live, hire.by.live. And the notion there is that large corporations have joined together to try to make more purchases from minority vendors in the procurement space. They want to hire X percent of Newark residents. They want to encourage folks to move to Newark. So the capital intensive areas like construction, because you have to buy equipment, that's risky. You need a backing. But if you can think of something in the technology space, e-commerce, I think that'll fly regardless of what the circumstances are.
That's good to know because we realize that this nation, of course, is moving to the digital space. And this is opportunity where, like you said, this is opportunity for us to relook at our education and look at training to develop in that specific space. Now, now, how are some of those key resources being managed within your agency in terms of now that you have this idea? Now, your counseling are they guiding people to those specific areas? Is that part of the education piece? Again, because as you are a professor, you're educator, you're a teacher. Do you infuse your plan is to infuse that knowledge within all of the different bases of your of the centers?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is that the 12 regional centers almost operate as small businesses themselves.
Okay.
They're going out, they're meeting the mayors, they're meeting the local chambers of commerce, they're meeting the local economic development authorities to really be hands-on in their areas. So the things that we can provide on a macro level are webinars and seminars that will cut across the state. But I do have a few websites for you. This is being recorded, so folks, you can grab your pencil either now or later. So we have actually two websites. We have NJSBDC.com, New Jersey Small Business Development Centers.com, which portrays the regular kinds of business issues. We also have what's known as a microsite, and we run that too, and it's www.njsmallbusinesshelp.com. Altogether, njsmallbusinesshelp.com. That's particularly in the COVID area. The website is fresh. You can click on events, you can click on resources, you can click on a whole host of things. You can click on it to get individual services. And there, you'll see the different kinds of seminars that we offer, but we also, in our event listing, we list what other chambers of commerce are doing. So it's just not being selfish as to what we do, but it's what others do. And if I may, if you're in New Jersey, you should become a member of the African American Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey. Their website is AACCNJ.com, African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey, which is based in Trenton, but it covers the whole state. I mentioned the CDFI before of GNEC. Their website is GNECORP.org, the CDFI for alternate finance. And the last one is called Choose New Jersey.
Choose New Jersey?
Choose NJ. CHOOSENJ.com. And the purpose of it is to help folks figure out maybe what kind of business should I do? What kinds of tax incentives are there? How do I have assistance in location services to find space for my plant or space for my business? So between those four sites, I think that's a great start for self-help. But certainly, if you want one-on-one counseling, we're always there for you.
And thank you for those resources. And I know for many people, access is always important. You know, being able to understand where do I start? Where do I, different opportunities. Now, there's something that you did mention that I do want to touch on, and that's your associations, the partnerships that you have. I had the opportunity to actually attend the African American Chamber of Commerce event, which was an annual event in, I believe, in Garfield, New Jersey. But ultimately, it showed a lot of what people can do together. So how, now that you're part of, now that you're the CEO here, how are you forging these relationships? You mentioned the mayor, but what are other associations and what are some things that people need to understand when forming these associations and now provide these services to the community?
Sure. So on a macro level, in terms of what I'm doing, I mentioned that chamber. There's also the statewide Hispanic chamber. There's an Asian American chamber. There's even an Orthodox Jewish chamber in New Jersey. And all of us are participating in the Governor Murphy's Restart Council that you mentioned at the outset. So we exchange ideas there, especially for businesses on how to come out of this crisis. In terms of what business owners can do in order to forge alliances, I encourage them to go to, as you mentioned, Chamber of Commerce events. In fact, the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey is having an event, I think, in maybe 3 weeks on the state of Black New Jersey, the state of Black New Jersey. That particular organization also has a huge procurement event. What we have at the NJSBDC, we have procurement events, we have international events if you want to get involved with trade. We have events for technology commercialization, as I mentioned before, getting involved with the internet area or digital space. So we have a whole portfolio of stuff, but to your point, it's very important to get alliances because you lower the risk. Plus, two heads are better than one, right? So you can feed off each other and really create a better product or service.
Now, in terms of alliances, we see right now the country is in a state of mourning, shock, and just confusion. And while this session is dedicated to entrepreneurship, we know that there's a lot of support that needs to go around. So just some of your initial thoughts here, very briefly, in terms of some of the actions that have happened in Minnesota and what we're seeing across the nation.
Yeah, of course, our sympathies go with the family for this heartless murder of a gentleman caught on camera. Is really painful to watch. But gratefully, you mentioned allies. Beyond the African American community, there are folks people of conscience who said that's wrong and we need reform. Earlier today, I was listening to Governor Cuomo in his remarks, which most folks expected him to talk about COVID-19. And in fact, most of his remarks were about this tragedy. And what he said is that we need more alliances, we need to stick together, and we need to put the positive foot forward. The positive foot forward has to overshadow the negative parts of the violence and of the hurting of businesses. In fact, it's self-defeating to hurt the small businesses in your neighborhood. So going forward, Governor Cuomo talked about legislation that he hopes comes out of this. So if there are more alliances, if there are more legislation, if there are more partnerships to make Black businesses stronger, we're all for that.
Thank you very much. And one last question here. I mean, there's a couple questions here that I've received. So what type of inspiring news should can we look for from your organization going forward? As many organizations are transforming, we know you're transforming as well, but what are some of the things that we should be looking forward to hearing from your agency going forward?
Yeah, well, the New Jersey Small Business Centers are part of a national organization, ASBDC. In fact, there's an SBDC in every state. There's one in New York, in fact. So if you're a resident of New York City or New York State and you're viewing this, you have your own SBDC, which is absolutely awesome. But what the ASBDC talks about is the different stages coming out of COVID. There is response, what do we do now? Then there's recovery, ramping up, and there's resilience. So we want to, when we get back into business, we want to stay in business. So our focus is not just on the immediate here today, the month of June. Our interest is the long term. So we're going to have a host of webinars and seminars and counseling focus on things like workplace safety. Where can you get PPE and what do you do with it? How can you make your customers feel comfortable? I mentioned that I suggested that businesses get more involved with the digital space. Well, cybersecurity goes with that. So that's a new topic to consider there. In some instances, if we're an entrepreneur and we have a restaurant and we know that maybe restaurants won't really fare well, all of them won't, the big word is pivot. How do we pivot to something else? yes, you're a bright person and you understand how businesses run, you can go from one industry to another. Just like I told you that my focus is services, I've been in insurance, I've been in Congress, I've been in education, I've been in telecommunications. So when you take that core skill, it is transferable to other things. So what we're trying to do is really prepare for tomorrow and provide value-added services that you may not be able to find at other places.
Well, thank you. We have one question here that's in the queue. And the question just says here, what's some advice you would have for advice for SCORE, especially for marketing?
For SCORE?
Yes.
The organization SCORE?
Mm-hmm.
SCORE. So SCORE is retired executives. They're volunteers. NJSBDC are paid counselors. They're paid to provide advice. But you can go to both, either one or the other. They're fine. The way that SCORE works is that the retired executive is matched with someone in the industry that you want to go into. So Norville, you mentioned construction. There could be a retired executive in construction that can give you the inside feel of what it's really like to do that. I was on the soapbox about business plans. Whether you're at SCORE or whether you're NJSBDC, that's going to be the brick that you need to excel. So whether it's SCORE, whether it's NJSBDC, whether it's New York SBDC, all those places are a wonderful place to go to. They're credible in their work day and night to really make sure that you're successful.
As I switch my earpiece in, want to also ask you from a professional level. You have many individuals that work corporate, and the state of New Jersey has a number of large corporations. What advice would you give to individuals that are looking to go from entrepreneurial opportunities to entrepreneurial opportunities, and maybe on the fence in terms of starting their own business or maybe just staying corporate?
Sure. Well, if we've learned anything now, is to have multiple sources of income. If you're lucky like me, where the state pays my salary to work remotely, that's great. But if you're in another business, like a daycare, and you're laid off, and that was your only source of income, then that's a problem. Or if you're in a large corporation, maybe you have that safety net, or maybe you don't. Maybe as time comes on, you may be laid off or furloughed as well. So it's really important to think about what you're good at, how can you network with other folks and do other things, and networking. There are so many hidden treasures in networking. Networking may change now because it may not always be face-to-face, but that's important. But this reminds me of folks that have reached out to me on LinkedIn. Now that I have CEO behind my name, I'm very popular.
You're popular before this.
Well, thank you very much. But I'm more popular now. But I get a lot of LinkedIn requests without any written invitation. It's just, here I am, connect with me. So if I have any advice in terms of reaching out to folks and forming collaborations or so forth, say in the invitation, hey, I saw your stuff, I do this stuff too. Do you mind if we have a conversation? That takes you to the next level of business. Also, a lot of, you mentioned the corporations, a lot of them have, I guess, ESGs, employer groups, affinity groups. Yes, affinity groups.
ERGs, yeah.
Yeah, ERGs, yes, employee resource groups. There you go. Thank you. So those are natural incubators themselves where folks come together, where you say, hey, we're really committed to this company, but we can do something either for the community or for ourselves after hours. Let's get together and work it out. So the big thing is really to just don't depend on yourself, collaborate with others, and come out with something special.
Great. Well, we thank you so much for your time. We know that there's so much that we can talk about, and and if people want to follow up with you, what's the best way to reach out to you to learn more about Leon Fraser?
Sure. So you can send me a LinkedIn invitation, but you know what to do, right? There you go. Also, you can write to me at SBDC info. I'm sorry, NJSBDC info. No, I messed up. Okay, let's start over. SBDC info at njsbdc.com. If I totally messed you up, you can go to njsbdc.com. There's the contact us page. You click on that, and you'll reach me just the same. So I wasn't intentionally trying to be confusing, but there are a lot of email addresses dancing around in my head.
Absolutely. I do have one note. Are you still going to be teaching at Rutgers Business School?
Well, interesting you should mention that, because I'm in an interim position, because I mentioned before that there's a nationwide search for a permanent thing. And if your viewers are interested in doing what I do, or if you know of folks who have been in charge of major organizations and they want to continue with this kind of work, you can go to njsbdc.com, and you'll find a link to the job posting for state director, or you can write me again at that address or at the contact me form. So the deadline, I think, is on or around June 12th. But certainly, thank you, Norville, for bringing that up, because it's a wonderful opportunity for folks to carry it on. I'm going back to the faculty. I have a 5-month stint. My purpose will be served by keeping the ship going while someone else comes over with bigger and badder ideas.
Well, thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you, of course, post-COVID, on behalf of the National Black MBA Metro New York chapter, and myself, my family. We thank you very much, and we look forward to catching up with you in the near future.
Well,
Everyone,
it's been I know you for the past 10 years or so. There you go, networking, right? We stay in touch, we work together. It's awesome. So kudos to you. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you so much. And that was the CEO and State Director of the New Jersey State Business Development Centers, Leon Fraser, and great conversation. For more information, we're going to send out some information in regards to resources, some of the information that he was able to give to us for those of you who are looking to do a little more deep dive in terms of opportunities for the state of New Jersey and the Metro New York area. We welcome you to this invitation to receive more information. At this time, I'm going to bring in Andrew Hamilton. Andrew, I know you've been listening to the back. What are some of your initial thoughts about this conversation?
Oh, it's a fantastic conversation. I think that he provided a lot of information that that is very useful and timely, especially people trying to pivot out of their current situation or move ahead as the year progresses. So definitely listen to the recording again, listen to the information he gave, the websites. You know, he listed so many. I jot down so many notes, but I think he was a person that is candid, he cares, and more or less is important that he's here to serve the community, and the community will benefit from his knowledge and giving back. So yeah, very good, very great conversation.
Absolutely. And as we start the month of start the month of June, which is always a month of reflection and relaxing, we also want to stay business focused. So just let our viewers know, this is going to kick off a huge month for the Metro New York chapter in terms of not only economic development and business development, but also some of the other events that we have here. Next week, we're going to have Lou Sevier, who's the Vice President of Minority and Women Enterprises for Empire State Development Corporation. Folks who don't know that organization, that's a government organization in the state of New Jersey. So if you're looking to, New York. So if you're looking to advance your business in New York, I know, Andrew, you know Lou as well. This is going to be important for people who are looking to expand yes. I'm sorry, in New York State.
Yes, definitely. So definitely looking forward to that conversation as well. So, and again, like you said, a big month planning for Metro New York chapter, a lot of business opportunities. Your event happening end of June 26th, really will provide some insight to our community as far as business is concerned. So we are saying business focus, business is business, business is life. And it's ironic that is June, 6th halfway point of the year. Good time to reassess and reflect and move forward. And definitely one more thing exciting this month is our graduation of our LOT program. Kudos to Molly, Deanna, and Christy for that. And I'm looking forward to, especially under switching out of COVID to now this tumultuous situation over the last month, that we are going to celebrate and provide opportunities for some wonderful high school students, which are going off to college. The power of resilience, and they're a great and phenomenal class. And I can't say so many words about being very proud of them. So kudos to the whole team and the mentors, as well as they strive to push us forward. Thank you. Great.
Now, also keep in mind for our viewers, when we look at our pillars for our chapter, we have entrepreneurial, we'll have lifestyle, we have education, we have professional development, and within professional development, when we look at careers, we have a huge career fair that's coming up, which is going to be June the 18th, and that's part of our listing. Can you just tell our audience about this career fair that we've been working on for quite some time?
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because because of COVID, we had to switch to a digital platform, and through I can't say enough about Chuck Roberts and Kavern Anderson and Marvin for leading that effort into switching from an in-person to a digital platform. We're excited. We're gonna have 15 great companies, 15 great partners, but more or less is an opportunity for the members and our network to get opportunities from our partners. And they care about us and we care about them. And it's definitely going to be a time to jump in and see some great opportunities from them. So they're hiring. We already sent out an email already about the announcement. There'll be a few more announcements throughout the coming weeks. Get your resume ready. We have wonderful resume writers that we know in queue that I'll post them on LinkedIn. If you want to know a few, let me know. I'll gladly send them to you. But it's going to be a great opportunity to get some talented people in front of some opportunities that will meet the match.
And for those viewers out there, if you want to find out more information about our events, please go to www.nyblackmba.org. Not only do we have our career fair, do we have our graduation for our Leaders for Tomorrow mentoring program, and we mentioned that we do have an event next week, which is going to focus on opportunities in New York State. But for the women, and this is very, very important for all of the women out there and us as men, we make sure we support our women. And one event that we have is the power of women entrepreneurs, which is going to come from a national perspective, which is going to include Nicole Kober, who represents the National Women's Business Council on a federal level. Now, this agency is the advisor to, they advise the White House, the Congress, and the USSBA, so which is going to be a crucial conversation as we look at equality, as we look at opportunities for African-American women, as we look at to make sure that we provide the services and the resources needed. So tune in for that. And again, this information will be on our website as well. And as Andrew mentioned, at the end of the month, we have our NYBLACKMBA Business Symposium. This is going to be a 5-hour event on June the 26th, where we're going to cover from MWB certification all the way to the power of insurance and financing for your business, how to get the right marketing to help convert your consumers to get interest in terms of engaging consumers into being constant penetration for your business. And we're also going to look at it from a legal standpoint. How should you restructure your business at the time of COVID? And this is all underneath the leadership of Andrew Hamilton. Andrew, we can't thank you enough for being a leader of this chapter. And I know there's more that we can say, but I'll give you the closing remarks here.
Man, I can't do without you guys, especially yourself, Norville, been a great leader in championing the digital series. George Santias, which has been a lion in helping small business, defending small business in Harlem, and helping this brand and moving it forward ahead. And the rest of the board, Molly, Melody, Cavern, Michelle P., Vina, Valencia. Oh my gosh,
Alicia. Alicia has a great
Christina,
event tomorrow.
Alicia has a great event tomorrow, and Deanna and Christy, and the membership as well, and the community moving forward. I'll leave you with this, and I like to look up words because I like to know what I'm seeing all the time. And the word entrepreneur originates from a 13th century French verb, meaning to do something or undertake. And that's why on Mondays, Entrepreneur Monday is a verb, it's an action. It's starting the week off right. And in this decade, in this 6th month, we're going to start this off right, and it's correct. And we may not have every single answer. We may not have every single power, ability to change things, but we are going to start ourselves right on the right foot. And this is what Metro New York chapter is about: resilience, power, inspiring, and informing. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you.
On behalf of National Black MBA and bccelerator, have a wonderful evening.